Hello everyone, it's me, Coffee Stitcher. It is the next to last Sunday in March, if you can believe that. So I've got a fair amount of things to show you this week. We've got some haul, we got some good Q&A, we've got some whip updates. So we're just gonna dive right on in. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Alright, so, let's see. I'm all over the place. So let's look and see what my Q&A holds for today. Kelly Bell, the poem, the way I interpret it, because I totally get the creepy factor of Longfellow's Round Tower, but the way I read it as is not so much the, oh, I'm gonna lock you up and keep you, so much as you're always gonna be in my heart, and nothing's gonna be able to take you from there. So I look at it more that way than the creepy way. To me, it's not quite so creepy as, say, I'll Be Watching You. The Sting song, that every move you make, that's creepy to me. This one to me is a little more sentimental, but that's just me. Oh, sorry, I didn't ask how everyone was. How is everybody? We cooked a big breakfast this morning, so I've already had coffee, so that's why I'm drinking a Coke. Chelsea Gillesco, I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it, or it might be Gelesco, but I'm guessing Gillesco, is wondering what my go-to black fabric is that isn't Aida, and my answer is none, because I don't stitch on black fabric. I have too much trouble seeing, even with something light under it, so super dark fabrics are a no-go. The darkest I use is that navy that I was doing my William Morris on, because I could still see those holes. So I do have one fabric that's got some black running through it, but it's not through large amounts of it. But yeah, I don't do the super dark fabrics. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that. But I know there are a lot of people out there who do stitch on black fabric, including, I think, Kyle, Stitching and Sound. Pretty sure he's got at least one that's on black fabric. And I know Queen of Starts has some that are on black fabric. But I don't do the black fabric. Gentle Stitcher. Lisa Frank was still is a designer. She primarily did, like, school supplies. From about the mid-'80s to the mid-'90s was the height of her popularity. She's making a comeback, though, because my generation is all about nostalgia for when we were kids. But it's all these, like, unicorns or things like that. Some unicorns, mostly things like seals or horses, and, like, crazy neon colors with all sorts of swirls. And so that's why I refer to my Lisa Frank conversion, because it's a lot of pink and yellow and purple and blue. So that's who Lisa Frank is. Barb Severino has a couple of questions, because she says she's having trouble being productive in her stitching. And I'm one of those, as long as you get a stitch in, it counts. I mean, hey, whatever progress you make is good progress. Stitching per day or per week, in general, on weeknights, if it's not my late week at work, I get about 4 hours of stitching, because I basically get to stitch from about 6 to 10. If it's my late week, then I get less. I get between 2 and 3 during the week. Like this week, I'm only going to get between 2 and 3. On weekends, Saturdays are very, very variable. Some Saturdays I get more than others. It just sort of depends on what we've got going on. Sundays, I usually get most of the day to stitch. So it just sort of varies, but that's, I don't have children, I just have dogs, so other than when they have to go tinkle, there's not much that has to be done with them. I mean, we stop and play with them, of course, but you know what I mean there. We don't do any sort of sports or group activities. We're mostly homebodies to begin with, so my spare time goes to that. Sheila Norwood. I put it into hibernation. I had too many quote-unquote stitch-alongs going, and with Owl Forest Embroideries, Wizard of Oz one's starting next Sunday, the seasonal streets just had to go. I wasn't as attached to it as I am some of my other things. But it'll be back. Because really, I just barely got off. I got, like, off half a stitch with, like, maybe a half a dozen stitches, but it was just one of those things, the mood I was in, I was just like, no, I'm done with you. How many gallon-sized bags do you go through? I use basically a new one for every project. And I go through probably... I mean, I've got one for every project, so... And I buy the 80-count box. And I do use the bags get used for other things in the kitchen, too, but... Yeah. So I go through them as I go through them. Michelle White would like to know how many needle minders I own. I don't actually know. Probably about 100, maybe. Probably. I don't know. It's a good question. I have a lot. So, a lot. That's what we'll say. Linda Kleindenst, what kind and count is your topmost fabric to stitch on? I tend to gravitate towards 28 and 32, kind of interchangeably. I buy a lot more 32 because then I can buy more fat eighths. Because it seems like with 32 you stand a better chance of getting on an eighth than you do with 28, which makes sense because it's smaller holes. And I kind of go back and forth between linen and Joblin. I prefer Joblin over Lugana, but I kind of go back and forth. Really, basically, as long as it's not Ada and it's not over 32. I'll do 36 sometimes, not very often, though. But I tend to stick to the 32s. Wow. Pardon my yawn. I think I missed one of Barb's questions. I did. Do you plan what projects you will work on? Yes and no. I have my monthly rotation that I stick to, so I kind of know what I'm going to work on during a month and what parts I need to work on during a month, but I tend to sort of work as I feel like, or, and in the case of this year, with Year of Magical Stitches, I tailor what I can to the week's homework. That said, I also try not to repeat projects during a month. So sometimes that end results in what I've got for this week, as you'll see soon. Jasmine Ravenclaw would like to know, what is your favorite kind/brand of floss? It depends on what we're talking about. Cottons, Gentle Arts is my favorite. If we're talking silks, I'm very partial to the Silk Mill. I don't get to use them very often, but I do like them. I like Gloriana a lot. I loved Dragonfly Lotus. I'm sad that she's no longer doing hers. Water Lilies is fine. The only ones I'm not wild about Veldani's threads. The couple of times I've used those, I found them very, very quick to tangle. I'm not a big fan of things like Moe's Sale, mostly because I don't use super wildly variegated colors. They're fine for, I don't begrudge anyone, it's just they're not the sort of thing I use, so that's why I don't have a lot of them. I don't like Tudor Silk. That was no bueno. I used that once. I will never use it again. I will find other options. And I'm not wild about NPI, not so much because I think it's bad, I just don't think it's necessary. It's very expensive, and I don't really notice a difference between it and DMC. And I can say that because I used it for my entire border just about in Giant Harry Potter. And I used it in the banners, and I can't tell that I used fancy silk for it. All right, Erin Mays has 2 questions. Have you ever tried parking? Not the formal version of parking. Now, I have, and I did it actually last night on a project where I wasn't through with a color, and I still had like this much of a length left, so I pulled that off to the side, worked what I needed to, and then finished out that color. I've done that. But I generally don't. I generally work a color, then I change to whatever I need to next. And yes, I did UFO. It wasn't a Haid that I'd started, actually. It was a Thomas Kincaid Little Mermaid. And about every once in a blue moon, I get this feeling like I should work on that. And I pull it out, and I put 4 stitches in, and then it goes away again. So, there you go. Question number 2, how are your mania plans coming? Non-existent so far. I won't start seriously looking at mania until the second half of April. Since my birthday is the end of April, I always get birthday money that I can go blow. And if I don't blow it on Harry Potter Legos this year, which is entirely possible. So that's when I'll start seriously looking at my mania plans. So I have not gotten that far yet. I think there's going to be a Chatelaine start. Keyword think. I'm very strongly considering Alpine Seasons. But we'll see. We'll see. Trish Snipes, keep watching. You're going to be happy. I don't know if I'm going to attend the North Texas get-together this year. I would like to. I always say I'm going to, and then I don't ever follow through on it. So I'm going to try this year. Last year it kind of snuck up on me with everything that was going on with family stuff. So... Robin B, to sort of tag along to Trish's, do you ever attend the retreats? I did the very first one, the very first Floss Tube retreat that was in Austin. Part of the problem I run into is financially we can't afford to fly. We can afford to do one big trip a year, so we do that together. So if it's not close enough for me to drive, it's pretty much automatically out. And then I also have to factor in time of year, coworkers that might be on vacation, because I am integrated enough, it's a blessing and a curse, that there's only about one person that I could be out at the same time as where it isn't going to cause a big issue. So I'm pretty mindful of that. So that's some of it, as well as can I get the time away from work to do it. And then we still have to factor in the cost of hotel, cost of gas, cost of food, which is why the North Texas one, I'm very likely to make it, but I can't promise anything about any other. Lynn McGill, to answer your question, I have not done any Star Wars patterns. I enjoy the Star Wars movies. I own the really fancy Blu-ray box set that came out a couple of years ago. We have one of the 2 newer ones, I think Force Awakens. I don't think we bought Last Jedi. Honestly, I'm kind of holding out on getting Last Jedi. And we haven't even watched Force Awakens, even though we bought it. I figure knowing Disney, we're going to get a big, gigantic release when this final one comes out on home video. So I'll probably buy that then. But I like Star Wars, not enough to stitch it. You're closer to get me to stitch a Star Trek piece, because I do really like Star Trek more. But I don't really stitch a whole lot of super fandom specific pieces. Like, as much as I like certain things, it's not something I go out of my way for. So, Harry Potter being one of the major exceptions. So, Linda Coles, we will maybe see Longfellow on the wall. It's probably going to be one of those things that when I have, it's going to be one of the things that will definitely be framed. That's a hands down, no question. But it may stay at my LNS as a shop model until we've got wall space. That's one of the big things, is I'm taking a lot there to get framed, and they're staying as shop pieces, model pieces, because I don't have a space for them right now. Maybe one day. All right, so that's the Q&A. Good Q&A this week, y'all. 16 minutes, woo. All right, so I don't have a whole bunch of haul, but I will still show you what I got. And we'll use this as my backing for it. I got my nest egg from Trisha, which is, as I'm sure some of y'all know, is Gentle Arts and Kreinik. She accidentally resent 4 colors that had already been sent. So next month we're going to get 4 extra colors to make up for it, which she didn't have to do, but I think is really awesome anyways. Because honestly, who can't use more Gentle Arts? So here we go. Here are the first 4. It's Parchment, Otter Creek, Old Purple Paint, and Old Covered Bridge. And then we've got Old Hickory, Pebble, Onyx, and Old Red Paint. We're starting to get into the letters that I don't have as many of. And then Peach Ice Cream and Orange Marmalade. Ooh, I should ask her if, since I've been doing the Gentle Arts, Trisha, in case I don't remember to Facebook you after this, what about doing after we finish the Gentle Arts regular, what if we did the wools? Because the wools are fabulous. I would totally be in for that. Oops. And then I got my 4 crayons, which are Aztec Gold, High Luster. This one is Beige, which really is more pink than anything. Azalea, which is just pretty. And Aventurine, which was in something that I'm stitching on currently. I just don't remember what. It might be in Aurora. It might be one of the colors in that. All right, so let's dive right on into my whips. All right, so I worked on Quaker Oz. On Sunday, I had a page finish, which was super exciting. So here is Scarecrow's hat. Boop. So the next page I work on is going to be this first page here. So it's going to have more of the apple tree. It's going to have the crow. It's going to have whatever that is. Flying monkey, heart, and the tornado with the house in it. So I'm super excited to stitch that, actually. The tornado's always been, like, my absolute favorite part of the entire story. And I remember very vividly when one of the first theatrical experiences I had was seeing Casas Children's Theater, which is professional, and was in the round doing The Wizard of Oz, and I was about 7. And the roof of the house blew off and over my section of the audience, and that was so cool. So, all right, so then we had my work on Monday, and I got this part done. So I'm debating, I'm either going to go ahead and start in on the ribbon, or I'm going to keep working on dress. We'll see. I haven't really decided yet. I'll decide that tomorrow, though. I may work on ribbon, but we'll see. All right, so for this week in Magical Stitches, we had homework. And we had to do 3 classes minimum, but if we did there were 5 classes total, and if we did all 5, then we got extra points. And it had to be no penalty stitches. So it was 200 stitches per class. They were Muggle Studies, Divination, Arithmancy, Runes, and Care of Magical Creatures. So, in order, I had 3 new starts this week. I did one of the fobs from Heartstring Samplery's Tea Time Edition. And actually, it kind of worked out super cute. This is on Zweigert Winter Moon 36 count. I did this one, which worked pretty cute, because it was, and I accidentally stitched it a little wrong, but it ended up working in my favor for the letter. Because they kind of have the house colors, so you got the yellow, the red, the blue, and the green. And so I put an H in the middle for Hogwarts. Will I do more on this one? I plan to do a couple, because I like most of the other ones. So eventually I'll probably stitch 1 or 2 a month, maybe, once this comes back into the rotation. So that was my divination homework, because of the tea leaf readings and seeing the Grimm. Then I worked on Muggle Studies. So I started Sister Suffragette from Summerhouse Stitchworks. I'm doing it on Bramble from Picture This Plus, and I did a Weeks Dye Works conversion. So all I really got done was this little middle bunting. I'm using a Miss Piggy needle minder, because she's one of the ultimate feminine icons of the 70s. So there we go. Thoroughly enjoying this one. It will definitely stay out next month. Then, that was my Muggle Studies. Then for Arithmancy and Runes, I started Nevermore by Prairie Schooler. So for Runes, because it has the letters like the Ouija board, and then the numbers for Arithmancy. I'm not doing it in the called for colors. So I'm doing it on Chai Tea, which is a hand-dyed Jublin from Witchelt, I believe. So here it is, and I used old purple paint for the house. So that's 400 stitches total, 200 for each class. Which left Care of Magical Creatures and the long-promised return, long-promised, I know, return to Giant Harry Potter. So we had to do 200 stitches, which was basically the Basilisk, Moaning Myrtle, and the Bludger that I added. And I think I got maybe the Bludger from Yvonne, Y_stitching. I did Dobie 2/1, so that he would be the right size, because he should not be the same size as Moaning Myrtle and all the others. I'm doing all the ghosts in half stitches. Yvonne did the same thing, I believe. And then I did my Basilisk in 3 different shades of Krennic. It's Chartreuse for the lighter, Laser Lime for the darker, and then just black for the eyes. And then we've got a whole bunch of surprises over on this side coming. So, yeah, there's more to come. And I'll be working on that until Chamber of Secrets is finished. I did finish reading Prisoner of Azkaban yesterday. I did cry, as predicted. I have a lot of frustration with the whole Sirius Black thing. I don't understand why no one bothered to have a trial for him. I don't understand why Dumbledore didn't try to have a trial for him. The more I read these books, the less and less I like Dumbledore. He's kind of a horrible person. Almost as bad as the Dursleys. Maybe actually even worse, because the Dursleys are terrible people, but Dumbledore just turned his back on Harry and was like, oh, blood wards! Stupid Dumbledore. I have some strong feelings. Strong feelings. Yes. We'll leave it at that. Dumbledore sucks. Sirius shouldn't have gone to jail.